for? And Lena says, that's for 40 years of bad sex. And Ali thinks, oh, eyes are for Reddit, thinks about it, and whacks Lena. And he says, what's that for? She says, that's for knowing the difference.
Under 36.
And if you haven't heard that joke in the past 5 years, you probably haven't been hanging out with my dad. I had the joy of hearing that joke every time I took him to the doctor. I will probably never forget, probably more information than you guys want, but he was taken into the doctor to have a rectal exam. They asked me to leave properly. And I'm sitting just outside the door. This is just a few months ago. And I sit outside, I can hear them a little bit, and then I hear laughter. And I hear even more laughter. And I hear even more laughter. Like, who laughs when they're having a rectal exam and makes everybody else in the room laugh? Apparently it's my father, who is proceeding to tell the Lena and Ali joke while he's having a rectal exam. So my dad did ask that I tell a joke at his funeral. That wasn't the one I was supposed to tell, but I can't tell the other one. He's not here. And I'm really pleased to have everybody here to remember him. You know, what do you say about Don Orenbuch? I mean, one of the things I found out when you go to funerals is you get to see people in a light that you might not have seen them before, right? I knew my dad as the daughter, as you know, as growing up. Stuart and I were very, very fortunate enough to live with my parents for 8 or 9 years. It was supposed to be 6 months or a year, turned into 9 years. We lived there for 9 years, and I got to know them. We got to know them as adults and have really adult relationship, which was really special. But still, I didn't know him when he, as a person who went to work, right? When I was a kid, right? So one of the things I've heard, and thank you, Mark Spool, for sending these. I got a lot of tributes from people that had worked with Dad at ARCO. So that was before I left right around the time he retired from ARCO. And they said things like he was the most intelligent, the most fun, witty, kind of too big for ARCO. He had bigger ideas than ARCO had. And I thought that was really neat to hear that he, there was more, there was so much more. He could have been, it was a bit of a tough dad growing up. I'm looking at my brother who's smiling. But we'll miss him so much. He was fun and funny and a special guy. Larger than life, Renaissance man. Those are the kind of things I heard a lot. So I wanted this just to be sort of an informal chance for people to say something about my father. I think everybody here, he's touched your lives. And I understand if you don't want to get up, I do have tissues. But if you can get up and say something, I appreciate it. I'd like to hear everybody's view on them. We'll start with Jim Burson.
Yes. Just a thought. First impressions are important, I think. And Mark asked me when I walked into this house today, when did I first meet Don? Well, the best question of all. I was a young man. I was 23 or 24. I was working my first serious job at a chemical company, making most interesting molecules in New Jersey. And the company was trying to make its way into the new era. And I was doing my thing, and I was a very young man. And along came a man who was the long-range planning guru of a corporation that was trying to bring itself into the new era. And it was this guy, Don Orenbuch, who was about the same age as my older brother would have been had he lived. I was at that time 23. My brother died when I was 16. And here comes this man in a pinstripe suit, self-possessed like nobody I had ever met before in my life. And I thought, I love this man and I want to know who he is and I want to be his friend. And I don't know how it happened that it came to pass that we got an invitation from him and his wife, relatively newly married, Billy, to visit them in their apartment in Queens County of New York City. And we showed up and there is this man chilling, and it became perfectly obvious that he was probably the smartest guy I had ever met in my life. He was brilliant and totally unafraid of anything, of anybody, of anything, of anything. And we became friends. His aesthetic was delightful. He had a Japanese sense of nature, which I loved, and which he realized eventually in his Ohara School of Ikebana flower arranging, which I thought was fantastic. He was willing to talk money in a way that nobody I knew was happy to talk money. I love to talk money. And Don talked money like a champ, and he was unafraid of it, and he was happy talking money. He was happy talking about the future. He had a vision. He saw the future. I loved that about him, that he had this sensibility. He knew economics. He knew world geography. He knew world political issues. I was a very happy man to have met him and to have known him and to have been his friend for almost 60 years. His passing is a little flake of my past that has disappeared, and I miss him grievously. I think about him, and I wanted to leave him with a little joke. And this is in honor of my old buddy Don, who was a rare bird. And only Don will understand this joke, I think, because it was my intent to make for him a special little joke that would be memorable to him in a way. And I hope he would get this. Most people won't get this, but he'll get this. Rich Wasp from the main line walks into Macy's to buy a suit. Bye, Don. Miss you.
Yeah, please, Tamar. This is Tamar.
Hi, I'm Tamar. I'm a friend of Evelyn Stewart's and Don and Billy's. So I didn't know Don as long as you did, but the way I met Don was when Evelyn and Stewart were living with them in Gladwin, and Evelyn and I had met in Israel and became friends there. And she told me that she and Stewart were going to be living with their parents, which I thought was kind of weird. I think we were all in our like 30s, and we were at an awkward 30s crossroads, I would say. And I remember I was single and used to talk to Evelyn. We would talk on our new cell phones because they were kind of new at that point while we drove to wherever our work. And anyway, so we maintained our friendship that we made in Israel. And so I would go over to their house. Sometimes after work, they were actually on my way home from work, and I would be completely covered in paint because I worked as a scenic artist at a theater. And I would walk in, getting ready to see Evelyn Stewart, and would sit in the kitchen, and Don would be there, and we'd be talking, and I would, at some point I would say, "Have you seen Evelyn and Stewart?" And he would act like I was there to visit him, which I thought was amazing. And I guess at some point I was, but he always, he always had this giant smile, and I'm sorry I don't have a joke. I'm not really a joke teller, but I wish I had one because he was so funny. I actually knew that we were going to be laughing today in his honor.
You have to tell them about the hugging part.
Oh, so he was the only father that ever like, he always gave me a hug, and I was thinking about that the other day because like that would have been so awkward for a dad to give your friend a hug, but he hugged me every single time I came in, and it was part of his making me feel comfortable. Yeah. So So I'm so happy we had that time, even though it felt like a transitional period, but it really wasn't, because I look back on it with such good memories. And his teas, his teas. He would invite us for tea.
That's right.
And high tea. And it was amazing. I mean, a lot of you know him as somebody that you worked with, and I know him as this man that just really knew how to enjoy life and really would go through like this amazing amount of work that I don't even know if I would put in that amount of work if I was getting paid. But and he was so detail oriented, and there would be these stacks of beautiful sandwiches and pastries and lemon curd. I remember the lemon curd for some reason. The lemon curd, that was the special one. That was the specialty. And his ikebana, I remember, was so beautiful. He really was a Renaissance man. And I'm so glad to be able to learn more about him and share his memory with you.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Gotta get more specific.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Mark H. Mark Halpern. We have 3 Marks here.
Well, I was connected to Don in 2 ways. And the people before me have said everything.
Speak up.
Have said everything that I've thought of about Don being a Renaissance man, being quite different than the people I worked with. You know, the people I worked with were people who enjoyed playing and watching football and having a drink with their colleagues in the evening. And Don liked ikebana. Don liked the orchestra downtown. Don liked cooking. He was truly a Renaissance man. And maybe that's partially why I enjoyed being with him. Not that I'm a Renaissance man, he was. So at work, you want,
But you've either got to get closer or I'll make it closer to you because they can't hear you.
every time I make a presentation, they tell me I have to get my project more. So I'll project more. But I worked with Don from about the mid 1980s until he retired. And so I've known him for over 35 years. I think we had parallel paths. I worked in New York in the early 1970s, and I think Don was working in New York and living in Queens, as I heard, in the 1970s. I moved with Arco to California, where I worked there for 7 years. Don moved with his family to California and worked for Arco. I didn't know him in California. Then I moved back to Pennsylvania, and I think Don moved also to Pennsylvania about the same time, maybe a little later than I did. And that's where I met him. So he was always at meetings, planning meetings. I was in the planning department as well. And he would ask questions that nobody else would ask because it put the management, it got them to think and it put them on the spot. And he would have a preamble to the questions, which were like, like Don was. I mean, highly educated, highly thoughtful, and he wasn't funny when he was doing that, but he was funny afterwards and before. And I think the management didn't take these questions too well. They should have, but they didn't. And so Don was unique. And I think he brought something to the planning department that nobody else had. And Don didn't act like he was a Harvard graduate either. He was Boston Latin. Everybody knows, even if you don't live in Boston, you know Boston Latin and Harvard Business School. And he didn't act like that. He acted like a regular guy. But when he asked questions, that Harvard background would come through. And I love that. Mm-hmm. So while we were working, he was friends with some of the people that I worked with, and they had a poker game. And Don would sometimes play in that poker game. And once in a while, they'd invite me to play in a poker game, but they smoked cigars at the poker game. And I don't know if it bothered Don, but it surely bothered me. And I used to smoke cigarettes, but not cigars. And I couldn't play in the game anymore because it bothered me so much. So I had played in a game from the 1970s from our neighborhood. And then people left and we brought new people in and we had an opening and I asked Don if he wanted to play in our game. So he played in our game for 15 years and we're richer for it.
That's where my inheritance went to.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
In the poker game, he says, and we were
Don wasn't
richer
a
for
bad
it.
poker player. He knew how to play, but he had lapses where he made bad mistakes. And he never got upset at these games. He was always fun. Everybody loved Don. And we're sorry we don't have him anymore to play poker with. But someday, I know I'll be playing poker with Don in the next world. Bye, Don. And some of the poker players, I'm sure,
Oh, yes, they're on.
are
They're
on the
there.
Zoom.
They
So
are.
maybe they'll have something to say.
Yeah, they may. Andy Spiegel's on it. You want to go ahead?
Yep. Hey all, I'm one of those poker players, except what's different about me is that,
It's not your turn yet.
oh, come on. It's poker time. All right, fine, I'll wait.
Unfortunately, nobody else can hear you. We'll let you talk at the end.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
It's all right. You're forgiven. Don might be pissed off, but he'd let it go. I met Don through Jim because as soon as Jim met Don, he liked him and we got to know each other. And so I guess we've been family for 56 years with Don, with Billy, with Evelyn, with Stuart, and obviously with Tim, whom he always loved and worried about. And at the end was thrilled with who Tim has become and is delighted that Tim is now with Julie, who he thinks is the perfect person for his son. So I want you to know that. One of the things I know about Don, I could always count on him to be there, to have fun with, to have serious talk with, to hear him cook, to watch him cook. Don made the most annoying fruit salad in the whole world. The pieces of fruit were so small, and we used to sit around the table in the kitchen and watch Don cut that damn fruit salad. You would starve to death before he was finished cooking, making that fruit salad. But it tasted all right. Then he was so proud though of his biscotti. I think that was one of his last cooking feats. And he made all different flavors of biscotti and they were wonderful. And Don loved wordplay. And one of the things I want you all to remember about Don and wordplay is when you would get up to go to the bathroom and you would say, I'm going to take a pee. Don says, you don't take a pee, you leave a pee. And he said it every time. And so I could never resist saying, I'll be back in a minute, Don. I'm about to take a pee, so that Don could have the opportunity to say, no, Gail, you're going to leave a pee.
It sounds
So
like
knowing Don, there's a piece of me that expects him to walk in here any minute to say, I just wanted to see how many of you really meant it when you said you'd be at my funeral.
Anybody else?
Sure, I'll say something.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, I'm Mark Spool. I've worked and I've known Don for 31 years, and in many circles, that probably would be a long time, but obviously not here. I've known him for many years. I first knew Don when I worked at Arkell Chemical Company, where in human resources, my first responsibility was to develop a leadership program for senior management. And Don was assigned to work with me because he knew the company and he would make sure that I met the right people, et cetera. And that's how I really got to know Don. And then I got to know my wife, Mona, and I got to know Don and Billy personally because we were part of a gourmet club and we did a lot of things and some trips together. So you hear a lot of stories. I just want to mention about two things. Don is, for me, the type of person who I would like to do things with or go places that I probably wouldn't do with anyone else because they may not have an interest. So, we went to South Philly, Italian Market. We did some other stuff. He and I took a road trip up to University of Massachusetts because it was a Yiddish convention, and I didn't want Don to drive by himself. So I said, look, I'll clear my calendar and I'll just drive you up there. We had a great time together in doing that. And the last thing I want to say is that Mon and I had a chance to see Don a week before he died. And, one always worries about how you're going to go see the person who, maybe in failing health, et cetera. But we were fortunate enough to see him in really good condition. Well, at that time, in pretty good condition. The last thing about Don that Don did that I think is most typical of Don was when the young, I'll call her nurse's aide, 19 years old, was helping him pick him up so he could go to bed. And she was picking him up and he was holding her here. Jim's gonna know where I'm gonna go with this. And I said to Don, this is your chance to grab her, where. And he looked at me to the side, just like Groucho Marx would look, if he only had a cigar, he gave one of those smiles, like, I couldn't do it justice, but that's Don. So we know you talk about a Renaissance man, you talk about intelligence, but he was a dirty old man. And Don, I think you know that. And that's why he gives the hugs that he did. And for guys, check your wallet afterwards too. We'll miss you, Don, a lot.
Can you play the?
We'll play that after.
You want to play that again?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want me to turn this off and let people?
Spotlight.
Do you want me to? Let them know. So let me just tell them. Oh wait, Mondo still wants to say something. Hold on. All right. If you want to stay sitting, I can turn this towards you if you're more comfortable. Yeah. Sorry, guys.
Sorry, honey.
Yeah, just lower.
There you are.
There you go.
You have to speak up.
There you go.
Okay.
That's good.
Or you really speak up.
All right. I knew Don with my husband, and he taught me a lot cooking. And it was very simple things like steaming broccoli. He brought me a steamer because I tended just to overcook it in water. And he brought that to me and showed me how to do a steamer. But the one thing he did for me was I could not have anything with sugar in it because I had a health problem. And so he would do sugar-free Jello. And he would do, he would do all these layers of Jello. I mean, like 7 different kinds of Jello. And that was my dessert. And my husband, Mark, kept trying to make this. And
without success.
No success. And it was like a secret thing that he would do for me. And I will remember him forever. His jokes were lousy. I'm sorry. And he would tell
He
them.
laughed at his own jokes.
Exactly. He would tell them with such glee. And you would sit there and I would not laugh. And we would talk about body parts. And, I had this thing about feet and the top of feet and the bottom of feet and the middle of feet. And he just looked at me and said, you don't know much about anatomy. We don't have hoofs. And we went back and forth with that. But he was a joy to me and I loved him. And of course I loved Billy and watching them describe their love. And the one thing that they talked about their marriage, and you fall differently in love as the decades pass.
Yeah.
And I will remember him forever.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, I'm not gonna have it point right to my belly.
I could talk, Bill, but I don't know how.
Hey, guys. All right, so we're gonna give, we have one more again. No, leave.
Is the second act gonna
Okay,
be better
second
than the
act.
first?
I'm getting old, and forgetful, and I wanted to talk about Jewish genealogy.
Oh, absolutely.
So, Don was the forward person who came to me and, wanted to be friends. So he searched me out somehow, and we used to have lunch at the office. And I think we played the bridge at the office once in a while. And he told me while we were at lunch that he was searching a Jewish family. And I said, that's interesting. And I'd ask him about it at lunch. And I never thought about it at all. Doing it myself. I was just too busy, too involved with work, too involved
before we go.
with my children, too involved with my wife, too involved in everything. I traveled a lot as well. And in one of my travels with Arco Chemical, I ended up in Poland. And I met some people there that were very interesting. The man who's the chief rabbi of Poland now was my rabbi when I lived in Japan. Another thing we have a little bit in common with Don. And I got interested in my family. My mother had died the year before, and I ended up on a weekend going from Warsaw to Białystok, which is where my mother was born.
What could I write? Would love to have
No
said
jokes
something
about the
that had to go or something like that. Bill? Or should I
And that's
just
when I
write
thought,
Billy?
well, I've heard about this, being able to do it from Don. I need to look into this. And I did. And I became very active in the Jewish Genealogy Society when Don was an officer back in the late 90s. And, we kind of bonded on that. And I wanted him to do his DNA work, which he had never done, because I think we would find if all these people here are Jewish, we're all related. Ashkenazi Jews, all related. My DNA has strands that match my wife's.
Incest is bad.
So I think almost all Ashkenazi Jews have some common relative going way back. And I feel like I'm a cousin to Don and his family. And I just want Tim left here. So you, Evelyn, have to take this on
Okay.
to keep the Orenbuch family alive, at least in genealogical terms. Thank you.
I thought he was leaning up to inheritance,
Money, yeah,
Yeah.
money, yeah, right. So you should get a little bit of what's left.
Something
But he got so much of it when he played poker with Don.
There's not much left.
Six.
Degrees of
Do you want me to turn it off? There you go.
Well, hold on.
Yeah, can you turn that off? Hold on.
Okay.
Andrew. Let me get this thing up and running.
Okay, I just hit leave meeting, so.
Yeah. I need to get. Oh, maybe this will do it.
Need your sound to be turned up on this.
I know. I just need to get to this screen.
All right, so are you gonna ask people to raise their hands, or what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Chat or in the chat?
Hi, guys. I think you can hear me now. Yes? Okay. I was going to open it up to people that are remote that want to say something. We've got you on a larger screen where people can hear you. It can get a little crazy. So I was going to do it through the chat. So if you would like to participate, just drop that in the chat and then I can spotlight you. Okay, I see you, Andy. So I'm going to go ahead and spotlight you and then you could get started. Okay.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have very little to add to what has already been said about Don. Most of my experience with him was as a fellow poker player with Mark. And Don had been there long before I was, and I've been in the game probably close to 20 years. So, I looked forward to seeing him every week. And he would frequently bring his little baked goods that he created. And he was even sensitive that we were all vegetarians in the house, and he would bring vegetarian food. And when I think of Don, I just think of a really great guy, a true gentleman. Unfortunately, I had a different experience with him in poker in that I donated plenty to Don. And so that big inheritance you're all getting, part of that is coming from me without a doubt. He was a very good poker player. And yes, he did make some mistakes at the end, but I don't remember much of that. I remember 20 years of this guy being a very smart poker player and witty and worldly and just an all around great guy. And the other way that I knew Don was those who know Don know that he wasn't the best driver in the world, it seems. So I was his lawyer. And I can't tell you how many times we had to go to court for tickets for Don, but it was a lot. And even before things started going downhill at the end, it was always a pleasure. He was always a gentleman. The police officers, the judges would immediately fall in love with him. He was a good guy. I remember him all the way back in the party land days. And, it was really, it was an honor to represent him in all of his affairs when I could, because he was just a true gentleman and, a guy that you don't see these days much. So that's all I had to add. I'll turn it over to others. I'll really miss him.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Andy. So if you guys can, if you want to speak up, just drop your name into the chat. And I should be able to then spotlight you.
Trying to reach out your name.
Is that you, Jim and Linda?
No, it's Renee. No, who was it?
Rachel Cohen? Okay, hold on. Let me find you, Rachel. Let me find Rachel. There you are. Hold on. There we
I'm not gonna get on.
come on, where is it? There it is.
Stu, it also looks like Steve and Helene have their hands up as well.
Okay, go
All
ahead,
right,
Rachel.
you're on spotlight at the
All right,
moment.
I'm gonna attempt to do this without crying. No guarantees. All right, I was another one of those adopted by the Orenbuch family. My parents are on here, so my birth parents, so they understand that I did not give them up. But in '96, when I met Ev in Israel, I had no idea I was gaining a whole extra family. So when I too moved to Philly in the early 2000s, Don and Billy just opened their arms and brought me in.
Get off. Get off.
Sorry. So my memories of Don, just like so many of yours, are all about food and talking and learning. Facebook reminded me today that Don discovered that there was actually 18 commandments, not 10. Really wish we'd written them down. Really wish we had. I have spent, I don't know, 15, 18 Seders with the Orenbuch clan over the years, and absolutely my most favorite memories. Don had this amazing chopped chicken liver. And I know many of you have heard me talk about it at the Seders. He would never show me how he made it. I knew there wasn't an actual recipe, but I kept trying to get him to record making it, talk it through with me. By far the best. And I will spend many years now just trying to recreate it. One of my more recent favorite memories with him was when I live in Colorado, but I happened to come to Philly to visit my family, and Don was in the hospital for some random reason. And I got to bust him out. Billy, I can't remember where you were that morning, but it was the greatest pleasure to go to the hospital, meet his nurses who had been, with him for many days, and all of his joy about getting to flash them and show his boy parts freely, because that was part of the examinations. And I got to bust him out of there. And first thing we did was go for Jewish deli. I think we went to Katz's. Always about food, right? And then I think, Billy, we got to come see you. But it was just, I love being part of this family. I love what Don and has brought to all of our lives, as everybody's reflected on the hugs. Yeah. Okay, I made it through without crying. Love him, miss him. Love you guys too. Didn't make it through, started crying. Bye.
Thank you, Rachel. Steve and Helen, I'm gonna bring you up into the spotlight.
Okay, thank you. I'd just like to speak. I also knew Don from Arco Chemical. I first met him. We were in the same department, so we actually worked together. And I was awestruck with meeting a real Harvard MBA. And then this was like unlike any Harvard MBA I could have ever dreamed of. Don was, just brilliant. And we played bridge pretty much every day at the bridge game, which was alluded to. It was a very mediocre bridge game, and Don fit right in. He was right in there with us. But after I retired is when I really got much close with Don, when we were part of a ongoing group of up to now 100 people that meets every Wednesday and just discusses issues. And Don was an eager participant, and I saw levels of Don that you could only imagine. People today are still talking about when he gave a class on Islam and came dressed in full Muslim garb and was very respectful. It was not something that would be off-putting. And he had actually studied the Quran and quoted from memory the Quran and gave a memorable class that in our class this morning, when we brought up Don, they were still talking about this thing, which was probably 12 to 15 years ago. So, Don has just been a wonderful colleague, and he is probably, as already mentioned, the most unusually smartest person I've ever met, with levels of depth and always a twinkle in his eye, which was really wonderful. And we did spend some time this morning discussing Don at our class, and he will be remembered for a long time. So thank you all.
Steve, thank you. I'm gonna bring up Marcy and Kevin. Hold on. You guys should unmute, and you guys are good. There you go.
Hey, Marcy, Kevin.
Hey, good afternoon. I'm going to start off. I hope I do justice to this, but like some other folks who've already spoken, I've been adopted by the Orenbuch family and the Gorman family, one of my favorite memories of Don was the very first time that I met him. I didn't work with Don like some of the other folks, and so I met him very casually, naturally at a Seder. We would have Seders at Helen's house, his sister, and at the time, his brother Lou would lead the Seder. And Marcy and I and Evelyn and Tim were sitting at the kids' table. There you are. So we, they would go through the Seder, and I had not really attended a formal Seder quite before, and so this was somewhat new to me, and I really enjoyed everything about it, of course. And Lou was leading the Seder, as I mentioned, and when he got to the part where it's time to tell the story of the Exodus, that's when it got really interesting. Don felt compelled to point out that archaeologically, none of this really happened. And there was no evidence for it. And I think he went into, a little bit of the, background of that. And I was just thrilled. I really
Lou, not so much.
Yeah, Lou, not so much. And I really had that kind of moment that you have every now and then where you go, oh, well, these are my people. And I just really have always remembered that about Don, and have had many other conversations with him, obviously, over the years. So really going to miss him. So thanks for the opportunity to talk about Don.
So I'm gonna try to talk without crying too much. Don is my first cousin once removed, but most people figured he was my uncle because we spent so much time together. So he wasn't the whole family has never been the kind of family that we saw each other just for bar mitzvahs, weddings, or funerals. We did Passover. I think we figured out this year it was like 40 years of Passovers. And then usually saw him a couple of other times during the year. We'd either go down to Philly or they'd come up, or when we moved to Boulder, Billy and Dawn and everybody came out for Passover here. And then when we would do the Passover, we'd make like a whole weekend thing of it. It wasn't just the Seder. Then we'd go to like Nantasket Beach for the day the next day and then come back and do second Seder. Or we'd go out for Indian food on Newberry Street. We're always in search of Indian food and Chinese food, I have to say that. I love that everyone used this term a Renaissance man, because, he just was the most interesting of people, always interested in any topic. I think everyone would agree that no matter who he was talking to, he made you feel like you were the only person in the room, which I think is an amazing quality. He just always made you feel so important and so well heard. I have one funny story that when they all, two funny stories. When everyone came out for Passover to Boulder, for some reason, Dawn had brought out some kind of salami from Philly, and our little dog managed to open his suitcase, find the salami, eat the salami, and then when Tim showed up, who also brought a salami and went downstairs to his bedroom, my little dog went down and opened his suitcase and got his salami as well. So it was the non-salami weekend. And then another just funny memory. God, there's so many memories. The Philly folk festivals, the July 4ths, both in Boston and Philly. And I mean, just so many things. But I'm thinking about when everyone was here in Colorado, and we were the first state to have marijuana dispensaries. Dawn was first in line to say, I want to see a dispensary. And that, I just love that about him, from soup to nuts, art museums, travels, genealogy, flower arranging, ikebana, whatever it was, he was the man with the curious mind that made you feel like you were the most important person in the room. And I'll miss him terribly.
And I'll end that by saying that even though Don visited a dispensary, I'm sure he didn't inhale.
No, we all smoked.
I think I remember that trip to Colorado.
Everyone smoked pot except Aaron. He was not into pot. So.
Right. Smoking pot with your in-laws. That's a memory. Thank you, guys.
It was legal here.
It was legal. So let me bring up Steve. Just one moment, Steve. I'm going to replace the spotlight. There you are, Steve.
Okay. Don and I were part of a folk singing group that met every month at various people's houses. We sang folk songs mainly from the 50s and 60s, songs that we learned as young people, not quite in vogue now. He knew a lot of folk songs. And he was always very enthusiastic. The way it worked, we went around the room and everybody would choose a folk song from a large 1,000-song book that we all had. And he would always make a big preface and then choose the same songs. He had favorite songs and he wanted to sing them every month. Another thing about our singing group is that before we started singing these folk songs, we would have dinner. And he was always a very enthusiastic person, talking about all sorts of topics, and made dinner really very interesting. And we all took turns making dinner. And most of us would just bring pizza or something, not do anything, not Don. Don would cook, and he made some of the most delicious dinners that we had. So he was a really vital part of this group, and we all miss his presence very much. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. So Mom, you're next. Let me replace the spotlight. You're on.
Oh, you have to unmute yourself.
Unmute. Okay. My name is Sharon Napshin, and Stuart is my son. Stuart is married to Evelyn. I have to tell you, when you're a parent, you take care of your kids as best you can. But then there comes a time when you have to send your kids off. If you send them off to school, you hope the teachers are caring and will satisfy their needs. When you send them off to summer camp or to any activity, you hope that they're going to be in good hands. Stuart married Evelyn, and they were making their plans about what they were going to do with their life. And it became a situation where they wanted to stay in Philadelphia, and Stuart wanted to pursue his PhD. They were, as I've heard before, someone said something, they stayed in Philadelphia and they lived with Don and Billy. Don could have put limits on it. Don and Billy could have done almost anything, but they opened up their home to them. They made Stuart, my son, feel as if he was another son of that family. And for that, I am eternally grateful. He allowed Stuart and Evelyn to stand on their own 2 feet and to get the schooling that Stuart wanted, and for Evelyn to spend time getting herself professionally set up. Those kids are in great shape now. I know they're in wonderful shape. I know that they're able to take care of themselves. And part of it is because of the time that they had to not worry about certain things and only devote themselves to the schooling and the training that they needed. So the warmth and the love that Don and Billy offered to them is something that I know continued through the end of Don's life, and they feel as if Billy is another mother. And I absolutely thank Don and Billy for that. As a parent, I know my kids were in good shape when they were with Don and Billy, and I thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mom.
Mom says you're welcome.
Yeah,
Thank you,
so
Sharon.
we appreciate that, Mom.
You made your son cry.
You did.
That was
Cry.
terrible.
It was terrible.
Poor baby.
It's difficult. Difficult times. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? I've got some words from Susan Gingrich that I was going to play at the end.
Is Susan on? Did Susan want to say them herself?
Is Susan on?
There's no
Let me look.
picture. Probably not. I don't know.
I'd like to have a word if
Who is speaking?
Marty Mintz.
Oh, hold on, Marty. Let me find you.
I don't know why Audrey doesn't have her camera on.
Hey, Mom, would you drop back on the mute? Where is Marty at?
I think you've got him up there.
No.
No?
Keep going. Right there. Right
Oh, there it is. Okay. Hold on, Marty. Oh, come on, where is it? Look for spotlight.
It's not there. Yeah, try removing this spotlight first.
Good. I've been able to just replace it.
Spotlight, no, for everyone, spotlight for everyone, no?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, that took a
Go ahead,
moment. Go ahead,
Marty.
Marty.
Sorry.
Oh, wow. Well, I guess I can fill in the gap in time. Donnie and I were friends through Latin school, Harvard Business School. I didn't attend there, but NYU. And we roomed together for a couple of years in New York City. So we go back a good distance. And so far, the one thing that I had the good fortune to do was when Cynthia and I were married, planning the wedding, I asked Don to be my best man. And I took a risk because it was his kind of job to toast us as the best man. And I knew that that would be risky because who knows what he would come up with. He accepted my offer only under the condition that when he spoke, I would not censor anything and limit his speaking. I agreed with a little fear. And when it came time to give the wedding toast, well, I think maybe that was the earliest time when he became a Toastmaster, which he managed to do throughout his life. Well, he roasted and toasted us until we, how can I say, it was just a little embarrassing, but he kept it just on the edge. Just barely on the edge. But he kept going. And there were other things that were going to happen at this wedding beyond Donnie's toasting. So we ended up having to turn his mic off. With some regret, because I'm still wondering what he would have said if we had left the mic going. And that's really true. So, as I said, we go way back, and our lives crossed and crisscrossed over the years. And more recently, we spent some really terrific time at Tanglewood in the Berkshires, where Billy and Don came up and visited Cynthia and myself on 2 long weekends where we did a lot of catching up. And we will miss Donnie terribly. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Marty.
you, Marty. It was nice to meet your brother yesterday, Marty.
Oh, I was very pleased that he was able to get to the
Marty's brother, who's about 13 years younger, who was a rabbi up in Boston, and he came to the funeral yesterday because at the graveside because Marty couldn't be there, and he wanted to make sure that somebody from the family was there. It was very, very nice. And he said he remembered my dad. He was a little kid at the time that they were friends. He just remembered my dad being super tall. What is this person?
Yeah, that's true.
Ev, can you help me get back to the spotlight? I need to get back to the participants.
Down here. Hit the participants down there. Is that it?
No. The share screen there. Oh, that was it. Yeah. Gallery. Oops.
That's all right. Do you want me to?
Hold on.
Marty, go ahead and mute yourself for us.
Okay, done.
There we go. So let me find Susie O'Donnell. Help me find Susan.
Is it Susan? There's a. It
O'Donnell.
could be with Steve. You have to move this. No, that's great. Is it just Susan, Susie?
Probably. Let's find out. Oh, there we go. Hold on.
Oh, there you are. Yeah.
What?
Right, she's right there.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I'm under Susie O'Donnell.
Oh, great. Yeah, yeah.
Sorry. Sorry, you were
Yeah, that's
underneath
me.
you were underneath our chat. Sorry.
Sorry.
Susie.
Couldn't see your
Hi,
face on there.
everyone.
Hi,
Um,
Susie.
I'm Susie. I'm the daughter of Steve, who spoke a little bit ago, and I also met Don through this singing group. I joined it a little more recently, but I guess it's been 10 years already. And I just wanted to add more to what my dad talked about, how much we enjoyed the songs that Don would bring. He knew an amazing number of songs and was such an enthusiastic singer. In fact, one of the things about his being enthusiastic about his songs and, you know, certain ones that he really wanted to sing, sometimes when it was Billy's turn, he'd take her turn instead, or he'd just tell her what it was she wanted to pick. As we would chat over dinner, he had a great sense of humor, even about growing old. And I think you talked about it over dinner. We'd be having the organ recital. And his sense of humor about growing old spilled into the music and the kinds of songs that he liked. Some of the songs about about growing old, and but also about memories and about love, and so he just knew an amazing number of songs. I mean, I was really inspired by it. I started trying to learn more of the songs in our songbook, and I would always think, oh, Don would love this one. I should sing it for him. I should teach this one to him. So so we'll really miss him.
Yeah, we are. Thank you, Susie.
Thanks, Susie.
Oops. So let me just see if anybody else wants to say anything. I think Susan, is that you, Susan Gingrich? I've got the stuff that you sent. I can read it, or if you don't.
Unless you want to read it, Susan.
Read it, Susan. Okay. So let me pull that up.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
I'm going to pull up Susan's material. I'm going to,
Let me do.
Hold on. I think you guys can see my desktop at the moment. Yeah. I think so.
Yeah.
So I'll read what Susan wrote and then play what she wanted us to play. So Susan was a member of the monthly singing group to which Don and Billy belonged for 15 years. In the group, we took turns picking out songs. I remember how Don took real joy in choosing a song and how delighted he was to hear us all singing it. A few of his favorites were Last Night I Had the Strangest Dream.
Want me to read it? Will the circle be unbroken? The Roseville, no, I'm gonna lose it. The Roseville Fair. Those were the days. Hang on the bell, Nelly, and the King of the Road.
King of the Road.
We love that one. And he often had a story or a joke about the song, which made it even more fun to sing. Sometimes Don would choose a song that was someone else's favorite so he could make them happy. For me, he would choose I'll Fly Away, I think because it made my face light up every time. I knew Don as a man who loved to make people happy, a rare and wonderful trait in this world. I treasure knowing Don Orenbuch.
And Susan sent us this file.
Can I preface it?
Yes.
Is it the last thing we're going to do?
I think so.
So we're just going to play this one. Oh yeah, pause it.
It just started playing, Emily.
Well, I like the last yours.
I can't get to it. There we go.
Okay. So
sorry, guys.
So this is a recording of one of the times that these guys were singing. You can clearly hear my dad singing it, particularly at one point. Everybody kind of gets a little quiet, and I guess he knew the words. But the most important thing is to listen to the last, when the song ends, listen to what he says. it's about, the whole thing's about maybe 3 minutes long. So
Yeah.
bear with it. And
I hope you guys
sometimes
can,
they're flat, but it's okay.
I hope you guys can hear it remotely.
Hopefully, yeah. Oh, this is way nuts.
Spring on the bottom.
Not the whole thing, right? The last three.
Hold on. Help me pick this up.
Seats were empty, one by one they went away. Now the family, they are parted, will they meet again someday? The circle be unbroken, by and by, Lord, by and by. You're all supposed to go ahead of my
We did it. We played it at your funeral, Dad. So, okay. Are you in? Am I muted? No.
Should be spotlighted.
There we go. So thank you, everybody on the Zoom. Thank you for being friends and family and being there. We really appreciate it. I'm sorry we couldn't all be together. And thank you to everybody that is here right now. We'll have a little something to eat and share some more stories. So.
We're gonna get better food than you guys.
Bye, guys. It's perfect. You want to hit the end?